Boss fired me, while I was secretly recording everything. Everyone sat frozen, except Greg. He stood confidently at the head of the long glass conference table, arms crossed, a slight grin playing at the corner of his mouth, like he'd been rehearsing this moment. Like this was his show. Across from him, I sat still in my chair, trying to hold steady. I could feel 30 pairs of eyes from the office outside watching through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The blinds were never closed during company meetings. It wasn't a coincidence. Greg slid a letter across the table. "Read it," he said, as if he were offering a gift. I looked down. Termination notice. Fired, effective immediately. Cause: unprofessional conduct, performance discrepancies, violation of internal protocol. Bullshit. You can clean out your desk by noon. Security will escort you out. There it was, the dagger. He didn't even flinch when he said it, just delivered the line like a movie villain. I knew Greg had his eye on me for months, but this was a setup, a calculated ambush. But the part he didn't know, I was recording everything. The mic was live. The data, already backed up in 4 different places. I didn't come into this meeting blind. I came in armed. Still, I played the role, shocked, confused, betrayed. Let them believe I was cornered. Let them think this was the end of Tyler Green. But why would a man record his boss for 6 months? I slowly folded the letter. My hands didn't shake. I made sure of it. Greg smirked again, leaning back in his chair like a king on a throne. "You're smart, Tyler, but not smart enough." His voice dropped to a whisper only I could hear. "You dig too deep. You disappear. That's how this works." How long had they been planning this? As I stood up, the room still silent, I let my eyes sweep across the glass, past the onlookers, past the shocked interns and gossiping salespeople, to the city skyline beyond. I had a plan, a very detailed one, and Greg had just played right into it. What if getting fired wasn't the end, but the beginning? I walked out of the conference room without saying a word. But inside, I was smiling. 6 months ago, I was the guy no one noticed. First one in the building, last one to leave. A numbers guy. A quiet workhorse, as my manager once said, right before stealing credit for my quarterly forecast model. I didn't complain. I didn't make waves. That's how you survive corporate America, right? Until one night, I stayed late, just like always. The halls were empty. Most of the office lights were off. I had earbuds in, buried in a stack of financial audit sheets no one else wanted to touch, because they didn't add up. Then I heard it. Through the thin walls of the break room, Greg's voice. "We'll inflate the vendor costs, slide the margin loss into R&D. Tyler will sign off. He doesn't even look at the ledger breakdown." A long silence, then laughter, from someone else in the room. A client? Another executive? I froze, hit pause on my music, slid my chair back quietly, just far enough to listen. "I'm telling you, man," Greg continued, "we get this deal through Q3, we're clearing 6 figures in bonuses. The board won't know the difference. And Tyler, he's just a spreadsheet monkey. He doesn't know a thing." And how long had I unknowingly been helping them cover it up? I should have walked away, filed a complaint, gone to HR. But something in his tone, the arrogance, lit a fire in me. So I stayed and started digging. At first it was simple curiosity. I cross-checked expense reports, vendor contracts, internal memos. But the deeper I went, the dirtier it got. There were documents with my signature I never signed, budget approvals I supposedly authorized, consultants I'd never met, paid tens of thousands. They were laundering money through me, using my name, my ID, my login credentials. And if it ever went public, I'd take the fall. Why were they so confident I wouldn't notice? Who else in the company was in on it? If I exposed them, would anyone even believe me? That's when I started recording. Not just audio. I began capturing screen recordings, saving backups of emails, scanning files from the shred bin when no one was looking. I even installed a discrete audio recorder under the main conference table. Every night, while the others celebrated deals and bragged about their bonuses, I was building a silent case. But how do you stay invisible when the people you're watching are already watching you? What if someone was already suspicious of me? How far would they go to protect their secret? I stopped trusting anyone, even co-workers I used to chat with by the coffee machine. Every smile could be fake, every question could be bait. But I kept going. Because every new file I found was a brick in the wall. And when I finished, that wall would collapse. In the weeks that followed, I became a ghost in my own workplace. Not in the way that no one saw me. No, they saw me. They just didn't see through me. That's how I survived. I became Tyler the Reliable. Tyler the Doormat. The guy who quietly did the grunt work, didn't ask questions, and stayed out of office politics. But behind the scenes, I was building a fortress of evidence. Every night, I stayed past 7 p.m. Told everyone I was just catching up on reports. What I was actually doing was copying internal drive folders to a hidden flash drive I wore as a fake keychain, forwarding suspicious emails to a private, encrypted address, recording whispered conversations in the elevator, screenshotting Slack chats where execs casually mentioned padding reports or rerouting expenses. I had already gathered records of falsified invoices, doctored timesheets, and altered tax filings. But the worst part? They were using real employees' identities to mask shell companies, including mine. Why were they choosing me to be the scapegoat? Were others involved? Or was Greg orchestrating all of this alone? What happens if they realize I'm onto them? I started acting. Every smile was a performance, every laugh calculated. I stopped bringing my own phone to the office, bought a burner device for recordings, wore a hidden mic in my collar once a week, especially during those casual lunch meetings with Greg and the higher-ups. And I never left a trace. No digital fingerprint, no access trails. Everything was backed up on an offshore server a friend in IT owed me a favor to set up. Even my apartment became part evidence lab, part war room. Papers covered my kitchen table, diagrams showing financial flows, timestamps from meetings, matching them against altered logs. I pinned up photos, flowcharts, printouts. From a distance, I probably looked like a man going mad. But in reality, I was a man preparing for war. Then came the moment I knew things were about to get dangerous. I noticed something. My keycard access was randomly revoked for 2 days, then suddenly reinstated. Someone had been inside my workspace. I checked my desk. Everything looked untouched. Except a tiny scratch on the bottom of my monitor stand. My mouse had been moved a half-inch to the left. Were they onto me? Was Greg testing me to see if I'd notice? Was someone watching me now? What would happen if I misstepped, even once? That night, I deleted all traces of my presence on the company network. Wiped my browser history, stopped using my employee account after hours entirely. I even bought a second lock for my apartment door. I slept with a baseball bat by the bed. Paranoia? Maybe. But when you're dealing with white-collar criminals in designer suits, you don't wait for a gun to your head. You build the bomb first and decide when to light the fuse. 3 months into the hustle, I had what I needed. Proof that Greg and 3 senior executives had falsified over $18 million worth of contracts. Emails, voice memos, legal documents signed by proxies they paid off. Even a video of Greg himself bragging at a corporate party. Honestly, the audit guy's too stupid to catch us. What's he gonna do? Tell HR, please. That clip alone? It would go viral. But I didn't want viral. I wanted impact. I wanted repercussions. So I met with someone. A lawyer, trusted, quiet, hungry for a fight. I gave her a flash drive, told her not to open it unless something happened to me, and I gave her a date. Hold it, just wait. If I don't contact you by that day, you go public. Why wait? Why not strike immediately? What was the final piece I needed before launching the takedown? Could I survive long enough to pull it off, or would they destroy me first? I went back to work every day like nothing had changed. But inside, I had already declared war. It all came down to one Friday morning, the date circled in red on my wall. The day of the Q4 stakeholder briefing, the perfect stage. Everyone who mattered would be there. The board, investors, press, and every single suit who had ignored my warnings, shrugged me off, or secretly tried to bury me. That morning, I wore the same suit they mocked me for in year one. Same tie, same scuffed shoes. Let them think I hadn't changed. Greg passed me in the lobby, flashed that rehearsed smile. "Tyler," he said smoothly. "No hard feelings, huh?" He clapped me on the shoulder like we were college buddies. "Some guys just aren't built for pressure, you understand?" I smiled back. "Oh, I do. Completely." He had no idea. Why was Greg still so confident? Did he think he had already won? Was he bluffing? Or had someone on the inside warned him? Could everything I worked for still be undone in one final move? At 10 a.m. sharp, the presentation began. Greg took center stage, polished and proud. His voice echoed in the sleek conference room, selling growth, agility, record profits. Meanwhile, I sat in the back row, silent, invisible, until I reached into my bag and pulled out a small black remote. I clicked it. The projector flickered. Greg kept talking. Charts on the screen, smiles from shareholders. But they didn't notice the file name had changed. I clicked again. Gone was the forecast spreadsheet, replaced by a recording. Greg's voice, crystal clear, louder than the microphone he was speaking into. "Tyler, he doesn't even look at the numbers. That guy's our free pass." Laughter followed. The room froze. Greg's face drained of color. He turned toward the screen like it had betrayed him. What was the room thinking? Was this real? A setup? A mistake? How long would it take for the board to connect the dots? And how would Greg react now that he was cornered, in public? Slide after slide followed. Emails, transaction trails, audio clips, dates, documents, video of contracts being signed in shell offices. A timeline that laid bare every lie told, every dollar stolen. Gasps filled the room. Greg stepped forward, voice cracking. This is fake. This is illegal surveillance." I stood slowly, calmly. It's legal when you're the one being framed. And when it's your job to read the numbers, not bury them. I turned to the board. I didn't come here to expose him. I came here to protect myself, to protect this company. You want clean hands? Start here. Would they believe me? Or would they shut it all down to protect their image? What happens when corporate power collides with undeniable truth? Would this be the moment I'm vindicated or sacrificed? A long silence. Then the chairman stood. "I want everyone not named Tyler Green or part of legal counsel to leave this room. Now." Greg was escorted out. 2 security guards. No more smugness, no more smile, just fear. I watched him go, eyes locked on mine like he was finally seeing me for the first time. Too late. 3 months later, I stood in the same conference room. Only this time, I was the one leading the meeting. Not Greg, not the board, me. The company hadn't collapsed, like they all feared it would. It survived. Leaner, cleaner, rebuilt from the inside. And the interim board had offered me something I never expected. Control. They said I was the only one with a clean enough record, a deep enough knowledge of operations, and, most of all, the guts to fix what had been broken. So I accepted. Not for power, not for revenge, but because I needed to prove something. That this place could still stand. That the people they manipulated, me, the interns, the night janitor, the assistant who worked 2 jobs, deserved better. And most of all, that I was never the weak one. But could I really lead a company I once wanted to burn down? Would the people who once ignored me now trust me, or just wait for me to fall? Was I becoming like them? Drunk on power, hungry for control? On my first official day as acting CEO, I held a private meeting. It wasn't with shareholders or the board. It was with the rejected, the overlooked, the people Greg had chewed up and spit out over the years. There was Maya, the data analyst who uncovered report discrepancies 2 years before me, only to be demoted and silenced. There was Carlos, the security guard who overheard shady late-night meetings and got laid off due to restructuring. And Jen, the temp who tried to report a harassment claim and was terminated the next day. I brought them all back, not out of charity, out of purpose. We're not rebuilding a company, I told them. We're rebuilding trust. And that starts with the people who were left behind. I gave them permanent roles, not token jobs, real seats at the table. But would this redemption hold? Could justice truly heal the scars left by betrayal? Or would the system try to punish me for disrupting it? Was this a new beginning? Or just a pause before the next storm? The media never got the full story. They painted me as the whistleblower CEO, the man who exposed the fraud and took the throne. But I kept the rest to myself. The fear, the paranoia, the lonely nights spent wondering if I was already too late. The pressure of carrying a truth that could crush you just as easily as it could set you free. There was no press conference, no dramatic speech, just one small moment that changed everything. Greg sent me a letter from prison, handwritten. "Still don't know how you did it," he wrote, "but I respect it. I underestimated you. They all did." I folded the letter, slid it into the bottom drawer of my new office, and locked it. Then I looked out the window. Same skyline, same sun, same city. Only now. I wasn't the guy in the background anymore. I was the one in the room with the blinds open, the one they all watched, the one no one saw coming. And maybe that's the real victory. Not the office, not the title, not even the justice, but the fact that I never had to raise my voice to be heard. I just had to stay quiet, long enough to become undeniable.